Hello everyone, welcome back to another video, and today I'll be analyzing a game that I had played yesterday. And this game was a 15 plus 10 rapid time control like usual. On chess.com I recently noticed that, well, I've noticed this before, but especially these days, that people don't really like to play 15 plus 10. And in my opinion, 15 plus 10 is probably the best time control for improving your rating, but that's just my take on it. I still really enjoy playing it, even though some players that I face are a bit lower rated compared to my rating, like my opponent in this game. But we still have great games like this one, which I will show you right now. And the game starts off with a typical Najdorf. And here he played the move bishop d3. And bishop d3 is not a bad move, but it gives away some of the advantages that white has. As you can see now, it's approximately plus 0.3, 0.4, but after bishop d3, the position is roughly plus 0.10. And the most common move here is bishop e3. There's also bishop to g5, and bishop e2 and f3 here all works for white. So the move bishop d3 was a bit confusing to me. I don't think I have much preparation against this move in my repertoire, so afterwards I'll definitely be checking out this line. So here I wasn't too sure what to do, so I lashed out with the normal move e5, which you also play against pretty much every other move. So I didn't really know what to do here, and it turned out e5 was the best move. And in some positions, this knight goes to, well, in the other main line, in the bishop e3 main line, this knight either goes to f3 or b3, and both of those moves are obviously fine, as you can see. But in this line, the knight actually goes back to e2. And knight e2 is a good move, but I just don't see it that often, since usually the mainline Najdorfs go like that. So he didn't play knight d2 e2. Instead, he went with knight e3. I developed my bishop. I guess I'll just turn this thing on right here. Develop my bishop. He castled and I castled. And from this point, well, this position is pretty normal. Like, it isn't too weird looking, I guess. And it's also equal right now, meaning that neither side has made a serious mistake yet. And here he plays h3, which I thought wasn't that great of a move. I thought that he had better moves, like maybe rook e1, bishop d2, maybe bishop e3, or just developing this bishop. But I guess h3 is a good move since it does prevent my pieces from going to g4. So after that, I continued with b5. And b5 is another common idea in these types of positions to, one, gain more space. Maybe you play b4 in the future. Not yet, since it's not great, but there's another idea that comes with the move b5, and that is that you want to develop your bishop to b7, which is really powerful on this a8 to h1 diagonal. And you can't develop your bishop to d7 and e6, but here I liked the b7 square better, so that's what I did. And he played a3, obviously, to stop b4, but I didn't have intentions of playing b4 here anyway, so I thought this was sort of a waste, and instead he probably should have developed his bishop once again, or maybe brought his rook over to e1. So after a3, I continued with my original plan, putting some more pressure on e4, and maybe, just maybe, playing the move d5 later. And I'm not actually sure if d5 is a good move. Usually black doesn't get the opportunity to play it, but I've done a positional lesson on positions like this where the d pawn is a backwards pawn, which is a pawn that doesn't have any neighboring pawns protecting it, and also can't move forward. But I thought here, if I get rid of this pawn, I'll get rid of this pawn weakness, which I thought was good, but he doesn't allow me to do that. And here I develop my other knight to d7. And I think I could have gone h6 here. Yeah, I could have done that. But I just didn't really like taking with the bishop. And I thought that it would be better if I had a knight on f6 instead of a bishop on f6. He played rook e1, which is a good move. Here I play h6. He goes back. And trading here is just not good because you don't want to give me the bishop pair and also allow me to have a knight on f6. So he goes back to g5. And I did think about playing the move g5 he goes back to h4. And I did think about playing the move g5 myself here, but it didn't seem like a good move. So I followed another logical plan in this position, and that is to simply bring my rook over to the semi-open file via c8. So he develops his queen, and when I was playing, I did not really know what this move was all about. And here I had plans, well, I'll show you that later, but instead I centralized my knight, which didn't turn out to be a great move, because at this point, he wasn't going to take my knight. So I thought my knight on d7 was just slightly more passive, and maybe I was going to trade it off and take his bishop, and now I have the bishop pair. So I thought I was maybe slightly better here. And here I went with rook to e8. And the point of this move was that I was simply gonna put some more security, I guess, on my bishop on e7, because I thought about putting my knight on f4. However, I did not like taking with the queen for whatever reason, so I played this move instead. He responds with rook c1, and now I move my knight. And knight to the rim are dim, but my plan wasn't to keep my knight on h5, it's actually to gallop to f4, he takes, and I took with the queen, which was my original plan. And yes, taking with the rook was considered the best move. I thought that taking with the queen was best, since it develops my queen and also connects my rooks in case if he moves his knight in the future, maybe to e2, so that in case if he does take my rook on c8, I will recapture with my own rook controlling the file instead of taking my queen, which can be attacked in the future. So I didn't really like taking with the rook here, although it is the best move. And he does actually move his knight back to e2. I thought, obviously, I'm not going to go knight to f4 anymore since he just wins the pawn. And in these positions, you do not want to take since you want to maintain the open file. And here I thought for quite a long time, actually. So I ended up playing the move queen to e6. And this move had two ideas. One of the ideas is to play f5, which I do play in the future. And another idea was to maybe sneak my queen into one of these squares if he decides to move his own queen elsewhere. And currently you can see that I am already threatening to maybe infiltrate with my queen. So he plays this move, which I did expect to stop the infiltration with queen to b3, but here I just lash out immediately with the move f5. And f5 turns out to be an excellent move, and he rotates his own knight to g3. And taking this pawn just really is not good because not only does it open the F file for all my pieces, it also activates my bishop, which wasn't active before, right? So taking this pawn just not good. And I was hoping for this because maybe I thought he'd misevaluate. After all, he only is 1500, but yeah, taking the pawn is just not a good move. And here I thought for a while, and there was some little tactics here. I ended up playing pawn takes pawn. And I was hoping once again that he would take my knight, which is just not good. Because if he does, I'll capture his knight. Once again, my bishop becomes super active, and I open up just all of the lines here. So good job on him for not actually taking my knight. Instead, he plays this move, which turned out to be a mistake. And I'm not actually too sure why this move is a mistake. But instead, I continued with my original plan, which was knight to f4, but it turns out that rook captures rook is the best move here. And this is actually my first time viewing this line, so I'm not too familiar with this. And I guess it sort of makes sense since maybe you play rook c8 in the, yeah, I definitely see why this is better now. This knight is centralized, my rook is about to become really active. This bishop is also quite open. So just in general, it's slightly better than knight f4. But here he blunders. And I'm really mad that I missed this tactic, because I probably could have just won on the spot. I thought for, I think, a minute or so, and yeah, like I said, I'm just extremely angry I missed this. I played the move queen to g6 here, and my point was that I'm threatening mate, and I'm threatening to capture this knight. But here he actually has the simple move, knight to h4, which could have saved the game, but instead he blunders back, and I once again did not find the best move here. So I'll run through this line. And the reason that this I should have captured with the bishop is that after he captures back, not the best move actually, I'll play queen to g6, and this threatened his undefended rook while also threatening a mate on g2. So unfortunately I did not see that. I played this move instead, and knight to h4 here is the only way to save the game. But here I also did not see knight h4. I only saw knight g3, which is what he played in the game. And here once again I had a chance to completely blow him off the board with rook captures, queen captures, and this very weird move rook to f8. Now, I do not really know the reason behind why you play this. I guess it's sort of an engine move. Maybe I'm just bad. If there's any high rated players watching my videos, please comment below why rook to f8 is the best move here. Maybe it opens up this line for potential, oh, pawn takes is actually not the best move, but I guess it opens up potential lines for attacks, maybe. Like you go here, maybe you take with a knight, and then take the pawn with a rook. But I did not see this sequence at all, and I actually thought for a really long time here. I thought for 3 or so minutes. 3.5 minutes actually. So I was looking at all sorts of moves, like maybe pawn captures pawn, maybe even pushing the pawn. I looked at this for a while, but then I just realized it was a bad move, since my point was that if he takes with the pawn, I'll take with the knight, but I did not see that he would take with the rook for a few seconds, but then I realized, so I was looking at a lot of different lines, and I did not see that rook takes c3 was the best move. And the second best move is rook c to d8, which I did not see also. And there's also queen to f7, which is another weird looking move. But instead I played this move, and all of a sudden the game's equal. And here I set up one more trap, and that is if he takes with a pawn, I would take this pawn, which is actually not the best move, but it's still completely winning for black. But instead he is 1500, and 1500s are not 800s. So he takes with the rook, which is obviously better. And here I was a bit tilted because I thought in this position I was way better, and I was. And I completely missed two winning ideas. And so I just got a little feisty, I guess, and I wanted to immediately win with h4. And apart from h4, I thought I was also threatening e4. Say he makes maybe a random move like this. Although h4 would have been the best move, I thought I was threatening a move like e4, but I guess that just hangs the knight, so that's obviously not good. And I did think about e4 for quite a long time. That's not good on my part. But here he stopped the move h4 with queen a2 check. And I could have played rook to c4, but it just felt a bit strange. Like it didn't feel like my rook was secure enough, so I moved my king to h8, and here he goes back to b1. And I avoided trading queens for one move, hoping that he wouldn't see queen to h5, but he does. And here I'm basically forced to trade queens, because if I don't, I'm just completely lost. Like if you look at the evaluation, the first move, which is the queen trade, is plus 0.5, and every other move is plus 4. So I did not make a bad inaccuracy here. And here he was obviously threatening this fork. So I played this, simultaneously defending my pawn on e5, while also preventing this fork. And he goes to attack my pawn. I defended with this awkward looking rook to d5. And although it looked awkward, I didn't find any ways that he could actually attack my rook. And he brings his king up. I attack his knight, which didn't turn out to be the best move, since after knight h4, maybe my pawn is slightly weak. And perhaps he could play something like rook g3 maybe. He plays this move, which is not good since it allows me to attack his rook. My knight's in a really powerful situation, and here he blunders. And I can't really tell you why he made this move. Maybe he was trying to get my pawn on e5. But he did not see that not only was I defending my pawn with my knight, I also was attacking his rook. After I take his rook, he plays on for a bit. And here I just push my pawn since there's nothing really better I can do. I can take this pawn and lose my rook, which is obviously not good. And here, bring my other rook in, I push my pawn up one more square, give him a check, and also go for the pawn on a3. So he centralizes his knight, which I thought was a good move. And I grab this pawn, he takes, I go here, attack his b pawn. And here I'm actually threatening maybe some mate ideas if he's not careful. So I bring my other rook in, and here for the life of me I can't explain why I didn't take the knight. If I give him one more check, he blocks with his knight. And here just another slight, very slight inaccuracy. I could have gone rook c3, which is obviously better. But I do this, get this pawn. And here I got slightly scared. Well, not here, but here, because my rook was maybe just a bit trapped. Maybe he could have attacked the rook with king b2. Obviously, I'm completely winning, but just for a split second, I got a bit nervous. And here he made another inaccuracy. For some reason, he did not see this fork. He only wanted to attack this pawn. I play this move instantly, and he just resigns right here because I'm going to take this knight. And there's really no way to defend this position. Like, I'm going to get all these pawns, so no need to analyze. I thought this was a pretty good game, and both of us played pretty well. And before he hung his rook, he was actually winning. Like, the position was roughly plus 0.6, maybe at its peak in that endgame. I did not play too well, but yeah, as you can see here, it's plus 0.8. That's almost plus 1, so white was definitely better. But I guess that's it for today. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Goodbye.